I was telling Kenny off air before we hopped on that I love Kevin Durant. I think he's the second best player of his era by a pretty wide margin, but it's been a very long time since he's faced any on-court adversity. Since you've gone into a game saying, man, they need Kevin Durant to really bring it. And Kenny, of course, countered by saying, he was the best player for the Warriors in those 17 and 18 title runs. And that's correct, but there wasn't a ton of pressure on Kevin Durant. I mean, those were 5 and 4 game series, I believe, against the Cavs. This is one where, this is the biggest game for Kevin Durant individually in a very long time, probably since that 2016 series against the Warriors that they ultimately lost, but before that Warriors-Cavs finals. And I'm really interested to see how it goes. I think, like I said earlier, we got a preview of it in the second half of game 4. And, Durant basically played the Bucks fairly even. I think they lost the third quarter by 5 or 6 points, and then they ended up waving the white flag midway through the fourth. But it's not like Kyrie Irving went out and the Bucks all of a sudden just ran away with the game. Kevin Durant had 16 in the third quarter. He was able to keep them in it. I don't think this is necessarily a massive blowout in favor of Milwaukee. I'll take the Bucks to cover that 4, but I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park. Milwaukee really still hasn't figured out how to score against this team, and I don't think taking Kyrie Irving away necessarily changes that.
Yeah, it's that point, Kenny. Obviously, KD was the best player on those Warriors teams in the playoffs, but he didn't have to be when you had Clay and Steph and Draymond all behind him. He's got to do it alone here. What do you think? Bucks cover the 4?
I mean, he did, because Steph Curry was really bad in that series. And if it weren't for Durant, they wouldn't have won the finals. And that was my point. But to Nick's point, again, the pressure was not really on Kevin Durant. And the pressure wasn't on Kevin Durant when he was at Rucker Park, and the pressure wasn't on Kevin Durant when he wasn't in the postseason earlier in his career. And this is a fair point. That was one of his greatest moments of his career. That was so I do believe that the Bucks cover this line. I to what Nick said, the depth on this Nets team, the whole reason that people were excited about the Nets last year and 2 years ago, even with KD and Kyrie, was you had all these amazing players around them, right? They had a great team, and then they were going to add superstars on top of it. And Spencer did when he gets hurt, and they trade away Jared Allen. And now you're left. TLC is hurt as well. No one talks about Luau Cabarro being out. That's a huge loss. And now all of a sudden, they're scrapping together, guys like Mike James to try to score. So look, I know that this this Milwaukee offense has looked lost. And, even last game, 105 offensive rating, not very good. The Nets defense, though, is just not, it's not a defense that's imposing. It hasn't been good all postseason long. And when you look at the converse here, the Milwaukee Bucks have played fantastic defense, even in game 1, when the Nets were healthy. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks posting a 109.5 defensive rating over the last 2 games. It's gotten even lower. The Bucks have played exceptional defense. So I don't think they really need to do that much on offense. I think that they might finally do some more on offense now that maybe guys like Mike James are thrust out there a little bit more, and maybe they're exposed on the defensive end. So I do think that the Bucks here, their work isn't really, it's not an uphill battle for them. They don't really have to do a lot of hard work to win this game by double digits to me. And I think that they will.